Welcome back to my channel. Oh god, so we're going to do something different today, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And the weather is awful outside. We're about to have snow. Harry's been having a week off and I'm just not doing that much this week. So I thought we could do the story of how I ended up with Harry, or Harry ended up with me. So I thought we could go back in time, look through some old photos and videos and just talk a little bit about, how I found him and how I ended up with it. I've talked about doing this so many times and I've just never found the time, and yeah, today is probably the perfect day for it because I've got nothing else going on. Anyway, let's start from the beginning. So it was 2020 and I was turning 28. So it was my 28th birthday. We were in the middle of lockdown and Ollie and I were living together. It was our first year living together and we had to do an at-home lockdown birthday, and it was my first birthday with Ollie, so yeah, he had to go big, which was difficult being at home. Anyway, he planned this lovely day. We had nice drinks. He wore a silly t-shirt. We had nice food, and he had like little presents throughout the day for me. And so he'd have like a little bell, and every time the bell rang, I had to run around our little flat and try and find where my next present was going to be hidden. Which was hilarious and really good fun. Anyway, there was loads of lovely presents. It was kind of coming towards the end of the day and the bell went off, and again, I ran across the house, running around looking for my last present, and I found my present, and there was always a little box where the present was like inside, and I found the box. I think it might have been in the kitchen. I can't remember now. Anyway, inside the box was this little pony, which obviously is really cute. Anyway, obviously I was over the moon with this. I was like, yay, lovely little present, thank you so much. And Ollie said, this present comes with a promise. And the promise is that when you are ready and you find your next horse, you can trade him in. So I was like, oh my God. So he was like kind of buying me a horse for my birthday. But obviously he hadn't bought me a horse. It was just, I could trade this one in for the real thing as and when I was ready. So anyway, I was like crying, excited, like, oh my God. And so we named him Harry the Horse. Can you guess where this story's going? Anyway, so Harry the Horse. What I haven't told you is that prior to lockdown, I had been married, I had a horse and a house and dogs and all that. And I decided to separate with my husband, which then meant I had to leave all of them things behind and start on my own. And at the time, my horse Dennis, who could be lovely, was also a monster, and I was going through a bit of a hard time with him, and I'd had a lot of falls and I'd really lost my confidence with him. And at the time it just seemed like the most obvious option would be to sell him. I had, like, my confidence was rock bottom. I had no money. I had to make an entire life change and start again, and I just didn't need a horse that was either going to eat and spend all of my money or potentially hurt me and stop me from being able to work. So I sold my horse, divorced my husband, left the house, left my dogs, met Ollie, moved into a flat, and then started lockdown with a completely different life. So the one thing I really missed was my horses, and it was the one thing I'd talked probably the most about with Ollie. Dogs and horses, I was missing them like crazy, but obviously it was also nice to have had a bit of a break. I'd had a very stressful period and a lot of bad falls on my horse, and I think just cutting ties to an entire life of everything and just starting afresh was what I needed. But anyway, this happened. Anyway, It's about a month and a half later, and as I said, I'm living in York. I'm near the racecourse and I've gone for a run. And on the way back, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I come across a picture of a very nice horse for sale. So anyway, I call Ollie and I'm like, I'm not going to buy it, but I've just seen a horse for sale on Facebook that looks really, really nice. Now, obviously, I'm not ready to buy, but I think I might just go and have a look at it. You know, just like go and keep my eye in the game, ready for when I am ready to go and look for horses. And he's like, yeah, whatever, like, go see it. So I go off the phone and I pop Mickey Easterby's team a message just to say, hey, I've seen your horse for sale and I'd like to come and view it. 10 minutes passes and they've read my message and no one's come back to me. And at this point, Facebook is like blowing up. Everyone is messaging. There's so many comments. People are resharing Harry's picture. I can see people tagging each other in Harry's advert saying like, oh my God, look at this nice horse for sale. So I'm getting a bit like, ooh, there is a lot of fuss around this horse. And it's kind of, getting more excited about it. So I end up messaging the team on Facebook. I've WhatsApped them. And eventually I get a message back saying, sorry, but there's been so much interest in Abwab, as he was called at the time, that we're not taking any more viewings, but if he is still here by the end of the week, we'll let you know. So I'm like, what? Right, okay, so then there was an email address as well, and I'd messaged them because I was trying to just get through to someone to actually like try and sell myself a little bit in hope that they might give me the option to like come. So anyway, I'd emailed them as well and they'd come back also saying, fully booked for Abwab, we're not taking any more viewings. I'm like, oh my God. So then, I don't know, maybe I'd tried to call them and not got through. I was getting a bit desperate, like embarrassing, but I'd got a bit desperate. So I'd like emailed, messaged, text, Facebooked them. I was doing everything now. I really wanted to go and see him. Now I knew like how high the stakes were. Everybody wanted him. So I was like, ooh. Anyway, randomly, I got a message back then through, I think, the Facebook channel saying, hey, yeah, great news, we're free tomorrow. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got in, like, I can go and view him. And at this point, there's so many people messaging about Harry. I've even had a few people tagging me about him, like, oh, Jodie, have you seen this horse? We know you like X-race horses. So I'm like, oh my God. So I like go back to Ollie and I'm like, oh my God, I've got a viewing, we need to go and see him. So the next day we travel to Malton. Obviously I'm now like really excited, even though I'm still trying to tell Ollie that I'm not there to buy, I just want to go and look. Anyway, I got there and Harry was on a horse walker and they pulled him off and we went straight into a round pen and they were like, right, would you like to get on him? So I'm like, yeah, okay. So I've not ridden for about a year at this point. I've not ridden for a year. I'm really rusty. Last time I rode, I cried because I fell off so badly that I had stomach cramps for about 4 days. Because Dennis, my old horse, just bolted and threw me into the ground and it was just horrible. But anyway, so I'm now faced with this 4-year-old ex-racehorse who raced 3 days ago and I now have to get on him in a round pen in front of like professional riders and ride him. So I'm like, right, okay, yeah, how would you like me to get on? I'm like, oh, you can just get on. I'm like, oh, yeah. Do you want me to do like a leg up or you know, do you want to walk with me? You can throw me on, because normally racehorses don't stand still. Normally you've got to like, someone walks them and as they're walking, someone walks with you and they throw you on as you're like moving. So I was like kind of prepared for that. And they're like, oh, no, that's fine. You don't need to do that. You can just jump on. I was like, oh, do you have a mounting block? They're like, no, you can just climb on. So poor Harry, I'm like, who stood there in a racing saddle, by the way, just stands there. And I just clamber on from the ground and he just stands there good as gold. So already I am like, this is a nice horse. So I get on him and we have a little walk around and anyway, here is the footage from my first ride with Harry. So obviously you've watched that and it was rusty. I was rusty. He was just so racehorsey. Like I said, he'd raced 3 days ago. So very much a racehorse. He'd had no schooling. He was sweet. He didn't do anything nasty. He wasn't sharp, but he was forward. He was sound, which if you know racehorses, a lot of them have issues. So he was sound, and I was thinking, you know what? If this horse is sound 3 days after a race, he's probably going to be okay. Because if you think about it, after a race, if I do any exercise, like a few days afterwards, I am like stiff, I'm tired, I'm aching. Like, I was expecting Harry to feel a little bit tight and a bit, but no, he felt lovely. He was just fussy in the mouth, no outline, bending in all the wrong directions, everything you'd expect, but he was sound and he was nice. I could get on him from the ground and I actually felt really safe. So obviously I get off and I'm happy. I mean, Ollie got in the car and Ollie was like, so are you going to get him? And I was like, I really want to. I was like, I know this wasn't the plan, but I just really liked him. So I went straight back into the office and I spoke to my keys to be, and Harry was on sale for £2,000, and the Yorkshire girl I am, I put in an offer of £1,800, which to me sounded really expensive because racehorses for me have always been like free to a good home or like £500. At the most I think I'd ever spent was like £1,500, which to me felt like a really expensive racer. Anyway, put my offer in, went home, and I'm like, yes, got my horse. Facebook is like blowing up. There's comments, like I can see everybody talking about him. Like I said, more people have messaged me. No one even knew I was looking for a horse at this point, but it was like, I don't know, the world was just coming together, and I could see everyone talking about him, and I was just like, oh my god, stop talking about my horse. Like I could see people tagging other people in him, and the stress levels. And all I wanted to do was get the call back from Mick to say that Harry's owners had accepted the offer. Anyway, 2 days go past and no offer has been accepted. So I'm like, stressed. And Ollie's saying to me, just pay the full price, Jodie. And I'm like, you can't. You can't just pay full price for a horse. You've got to put an offer in. Like, that's how it works. And Ollie's like, Jodie, it's £200. Just pay the £200 extra and you can have him. And I was like, I know, but it's so expensive for a racehorse. And Ollie's just like, would you pay the extra £200 to make sure that you had a safe horse? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, so if we lost this horse now, do you think you could find another one that you'd like this much as quick? And I'm like, no. Like, I'd properly fallen in love with him. So he's like, pay the money. Like, we'll just pay it. So anyway, I'm like, right, okay. So I call Mickey East a bit and I'm like, so scared they're going to message and be like, oh, sorry, we found another home for Harry and they've offered full price. So I like call him up and I'm like, we're going to pay full price, put the full offer in. And so he was like, great, okay, I'll let his owners know. So I'm like, I still don't have like satisfaction. I still don't know he's mine. Anyway, I do get the call back. The owners call me and say, we're happy to accept the offer. So, good. We've got an offer accepted. Harry is mine, essentially. Anyway, so that was the 21st of June. On the 28th of June, we had our vetting booked. And my God, did they go to town. I'm going to show you some clips now of him going through his trot ups. So yeah, they did all of his trot ups, they lunged in, they did his teeth, they checked his back. It was like, it wasn't far off of stage 5, apart from having x-rays, like they did everything else. And he looked fine. But I'm like watching it all go on, it all looks absolutely fine. To me, he looks great. But the vets called me to the side at the end of it with the form and they said, right, Jodie, there's a few bits. Harry has a scar in his eye. Now, it doesn't look like it's affecting his vision, but we have to let you know. So I'm like, right, okay, we can deal with that, that's fine. The other thing is he also has a heart murmur. So I'm like, oh, right, what does that mean? They were like, well, it could be something, it could be nothing. It's not unusual to see a heart murmur in a horse that is this fit. Obviously, he's just raced. Because they're so fit, it can happen. So I'm like, right, okay. So like, yeah, we're not worried about that. The problems that we have seen are his feet. They're like, his feet are awful. We don't know how he is still sound. And I'm like, right, okay, I can fix feet, that's fine. You know, they're like, we're just worried he might not stand up to work. And it's going to take a long time to get them feet right, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, oh God, right, okay, let me go and talk to Ollie. So I got back in the car and I'm like trying to be sensible. Like, I'm never sensible with horses. And I'm like, game face, I'm like, Ollie, I don't think we can get him. And Ollie's like, what? Why? And I'm like, scar in the eye, the heart problem, his feet are really bad, the vets are quite concerned. I don't think it's a sensible move. And he's like, you can't leave him, you've got to do it. Like, you love this horse and he's got so much potential and he's so nice. Is it not worthwhile just giving him the chance? And I'm like trying really hard to be like businesswoman and like make good decisions. Anyway, quick chat with Ollie and we're like, no, we're going to take him. So literally, I think the next day, by the way, what I haven't told you is because I've got no horse, because I'm in the middle of lockdown, because I've not owned a horse for an entire year, when I sold Dennis, I packed all of my stuff up into my trailer, everything, and I travelled it across Yorkshire to Driffield, and I packed it up at a friend's barn, and it was locked in there for about a year. And all of a sudden, I'm now in York Centre, my box is about an hour away. So me and Ollie got the car and we drove to Driffield the next day. We collected the trailer, dusted everything off, made the arrangements to collect Harry. I had to then find a yard, like short notice, like, hello, do you have a space free? Can I move in tomorrow? So anyway, we found a yard, I collected my stuff, then had to Ollie has never had a horse. He's never really had pets. I think he had a cat when he was younger, but he's never had dogs, never had a horse. He's lived like in London most of his life. So anyway, poor Ollie is now like towing trailers, lifting boxes, dealing with tack. He's got a racehorse. We had to go to our first like tack shop and start buying like feed and bedding. And so anyway, it was an interesting time and it all happened rather quickly. We went from no horse to having a 4-year-old racehorse in about 2 weeks. So here he is arriving at his yard for the first time and oh, I was just so excited. We got him home. He had his first day out in a field. The yard was like a number of stables in a line and then one field which was about 10 acres or something, and there was a small paddock to the side. So we put Harry in the paddock to the side to let him kind of meet the horses over the gate, and the idea was that we just take him home and turn him out into the herd and kind of let him have some downtime. Anyway, we didn't really do that. We decided that while turning him out, we'd kind of keep him ticking over for a couple of months with a bit of hacking like 2 or 3 times a week. So the next day I got to the yard, I tacked him up in a field with my old saddle that I'd not ridden in God knows how long. I don't think Harry had ever had like a proper saddle on his back before. So he had a brand new saddle put on his back, a proper bridle put on, and then I just climbed on him in the field, and then me and my friend rode him around the field a couple of times, and then we headed out for a hack. And that was that. So that was that yard, and it was all fine. We tried to mix him into the herd, and it was quite a well-established herd, and it just didn't work out. The horses were fighting and Harry was getting pushed around. And so I called another yard up where I used to keep my old horse and begged and pleaded, please, 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 can you take me? Like, Harry's rugs were shredded. Harry was like having to stay at one side of the field while the rest of the herd like bullied him and pushed him away. So we quickly packed him back up again, all of our stuff, packed Harry up, and then moved him to Elvington, which was about 20 minutes away, and we moved in there, and that was fine, and life was quieter. We were just kind of spending a bit of time hacking again, just getting to know him really. I had my farrier come out there and do his feet for the first time. So I've had him for probably about 2 weeks at this point. So my farrier's finally come out, and weirdest thing, we're doing Harry's feet, and every time a farrier or me go near Harry's tummy, Harry starts lifting his leg like a dog, like in this picture here. So Harry's like cocking his leg and we're laughing our heads off, like itching his belly, and I'm like, what is going on with this horse? He is odd. I don't know him very well at this point, so I don't know if this is like normal for him. Anyway, I kind of eventually, I'm like, something is strange. Like, I'm gonna have to have a proper look. So like, I had a quick look at Harry's sheath, and I've never seen this before, but when I looked at his willy, there was actual maggots in there. I don't know how long they'd been there. I don't think it had been very long. But anyway, there was maggots in there. So poor Ollie, again, the guy who's never had an animal or a horse or anything, is now having to watch me get rubber gloves on and start like peeling Harry's willy inside out and scraping maggots out. But Harry's little face, bless him, he's never looked so relieved. So yeah, another lovely bonding experience. But he was fine. We scrubbed it, we cleaned it. It's all been fine. We've not had the problem since. Anyway, life doesn't stop there. So as I said, me and Ollie were kind of like, we weren't really sure where we were living. Ollie had his house in the south, we were living in the north. And the decision came that it was silly to keep paying rent to live in York Centre. Lockdown was lifting just a little bit and was allowing us to move around, so we made the decision to move down south. So at this point we'd had Harry about 2 months. I think it was the end of August, beginning of September, and once again we packed everything up and we moved down south to Surrey, and Harry moved to Epsom, the Epsom Downs, which is where like a massive racecourse is, and it's where Harry's great-grandfather Galileo raced and was very successful, so that was very exciting. So we spent probably, I think it was like September to November, we were like hacking out across Epsom Racecourse. We did a little bit in the school but not a lot, just basically getting to know each other and just spending that time doing little bits and bobs but not a lot, and getting to know him. Anyway, on the other hand, his feet were still a problem. He had a rather large crack up the front of one of his hooves. We were still struggling with trying to get the length of his hoof back. He had like really ski slope hooves, but he just kept pulling the shoes off, and the more he pulled the shoes off, the more he was damaging his feet. Anyway, this is a whole other story, probably for another vlog. Let me know in the comments if this is something you're interested in. But long story short, in November, I think it was the 1st of November, we decided to take Harry completely barefoot. So we could do another vlog on that another time if you're interested in Harry's barefoot journey. I'd never had a barefoot horse before, but it's just what happened, and it seems to have suited us so far, and we're still barefoot now. So yeah, so Harry went barefoot in November. He had about 4 months off. In the January after Christmas, me and Ollie sat down, had a talk, and were like, my gosh, is the south expensive? So I'd kind of said, look, why don't we move to the north where everything's cheaper? So that's what we did. So we then found this house, and by February the 26th, we had moved Harry back up north again, and we moved into our house in the north, and on the very same day we got engaged. We were all back up north. I had my horse, my dog, my house, my husband to be, and life was complete again. And that's kind of our story. So if you have been following us on Instagram, you will know the rest now. Obviously, I brought Harry back into work. At this point, he'd had 4 months off, and I just jumped back on him like nothing had ever happened. We were in a brand new yard. His feet were now fine. He was sound again, and we cracked on as nothing ever happened. And then shortly after that, we had our first competition, and life has just continued from there. So, as you've probably guessed, when we met Harry, he was called Abwab. He didn't have a stable name. And I think me and Ollie just kind of looked at each other and we both were just like, let's call him Harry. And the weirdest thing is I think this looks a bit like Harry. I mean, he's the plainest little bay horse. He could have a little white sock. He's missing that. But he's got Harry's little white star. He's totally plain. He's got no markings. I mean, it's not a bay. And Harry's not a bay. So I just feel like it was all meant to be. I just feel like the stars aligned. Like, all of the crap and stuff that I've been through with divorce and losing the house and the horse and the dogs, and Harry was what was waiting for me. And now look at us. Look how far we have come, my little racehorse. So, yeah, that is our story. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have any lovely little stories that you want to share with me, tell me, how did you find your horse? How did it come about? And I hope you've enjoyed my little story. And if you did, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought. And we'll see you next time.